Welcome to the Numerology and Astrology for December 1st, 2021. If you add all those numbers together, you get the number 9, and you're going to notice that we took a step back from yesterday, which was actually a number 1. And this happens oftentimes when we change months. And so this month, we again have to step backwards in order to embrace what is arising in December. The number 9 is a number of tolerance and calls to us to step past indifferences and towards a deeper understanding of ourself and our world. What makes this world unique is its emotional depth and the expressions of feelings that are so vast and wide-ranging. We are here to become more skilled in the sensitivity factors that permeate this reality. We are here to become aware of how certain people, situations, and animals interconnect with us and impact us. We are in a deeply feelinged world and are asked to recognize the shifts and changes of how we interact with each other. While it is difficult to deal with this pervasive sensitivity, it is important to not let old hurts cause us to shut down and block those subtle messages, because this is what makes life worth living, and it is what makes us shift and change. That is what makes us see into what others are hiding, and it is what will help us find a better balance within. The astrology today. The Libra moon makes us weigh the importance of things in our life from both sides. While perspective is important, early this morning the moon will shift into Scorpio, bringing us face to face with some deeper truths that we may not be happy about. But a moon in Scorpio will have a tendency to do just that. Neptune will shift out of a retrograde, and that will help us see that certain things are finally beginning to clear up. I expect new creative ideas to swing into view, and this can be something that allows a powerful manifestation of new visions and brings our hidden dreams into light. Use this creative moment to heighten those expressions and let those creative ideas come into form. Don't be surprised if your inspiration comes from something very different than expected. This moment will require a type of focus that can go the distance. Many things will have to be handled appropriately to accomplish the goal. The Sun and Pluto will semi-square, and that will make a struggle out of small things. Just remember that you cannot control others, and it is a waste of precious energy to try to make people into what you need to feel safe. Relationships can be frustrating, so we would be wise to step back. Mercury and Uranus will quincunx, and that creates a disturbance in the force. There is a type of strain on understanding others. Be careful, because trying to make sudden and rash decisions will only create more heartache. Double check all directions given by others, write them down, and have them check them for you. Something will seem unclear, and that can lead to a bigger problem and more frustration. Today I did not do a quote, but let's do the blog. Many situations in my life have been enhanced by my intuitive knowing and my psychic ability, and one is not more important than the other. It seems such things are a cumulative process that opens subtle doorways in the psyche and that allow one to access places hidden deep within the mind. Some things are there from childhood, the ability to see that what was hidden from to others, the echoes of past events that continue to play out in modern moments. Such things played out as clearly as I see a physical person now. I had a guide, or an imaginary friend. He was Asian, and he and I would sing songs in a foreign language. My mother remembers it and wished she'd had a tape recorder because it was so consistent and interesting. But there were many other more subtle things that seemed to unlock places within my mind. In my 20s, I encountered a trans channel, and that encounter changed me forever in ways that I'm still recognizing and understanding. This being that was embodied seemed to know me from another time and place. He asked permission to clear off some energy that was burdening me and causing me pain. He asked if he could take my hands. I said yes, but was unsure what was going to happen. Once he took my hands, it was like a gray fog started to be sucked out my arms and hands and into him and out the top of his head. It was so strongly visceral that it caused me to take a sharp intake of breath. And then it was as if light came streaming out of my body. My light body was activated and the karmic suffering was released. From that point on, I was never quite the same. But there are other moments when things drastically shifted. I was in a car with a boyfriend, and we had just started to get out of the car, and the overhead light was not on, but the side lights at the bottom of the doors were. The reflection of the soft light activated a part of my brain, and suddenly I was seeing him and I in a past life in a tavern with a candlelight at the table with mugs of beer in front of us. It was as if a movie was going off in my mind, and we were both male. I told him what I was seeing and how it was somehow triggered by the subtlety of the light. When the film in my mind stopped, I had this raging headache for 3 days, a type of migraine which I had never felt before. It felt like something had opened up deep in my brain that had been closed, and after that, seeing things from past lives for myself and others seemed to come more readily, especially if there was some sort of a trigger. Then there was the time I was in a sweat lodge, and it was not my first one. It was probably about my seventh sweat lodge when suddenly I could not breathe. In that moment, I was not in the sweat lodge. I was being drowned in a murky lake in Europe, somewhere in Denmark. My hands and arms were tied behind my back, and my ankles were tied to my hands. Something heavy was tied to me like a big rock, and I was sinking into the murky water, unable to breathe. I was drowning. Many years later, I interestingly ended up at that same exact lake with my sister. She was a dressage horse person, and there was a stone estate from the 1300s that had dressage horses. She was riding and looking at horses to buy on this property. I walked out onto the dock when suddenly I was drowning again and sinking into the lake. That lake. I ran off the deck and threw myself on the ground when my sister came by on a horse and in an irritated voice asked what was wrong with me. And I told her that there were dead women in that lake. And she very nonchalantly said, "Oh, yes, didn't you know they drowned accused witches in this lake in the Dark Ages?" And I told her I was in the lake. And she looked startled and horrified. Many people do not believe in past lives, and I tell them that until you have an experience you cannot explain, where you know something as clearly as I know something from my childhood, past lives seem something that is a bit odd. But once you have an experience of one, it changes your perception forever. I believe that we have existed in other dimensions and times. I believe that they can and do overlap in moments. I believe that there are dimensions where fairies and nature spirits exist. I have had glimmers and moments with all of them at various times. It makes this world seem more permeable and less permanent. There is an energy that connects all things, all times and places. And there are moments when we can see through this veil into those other dimensions and times. And those glimpses are there to provide comfort and understanding. They are to help us see past the material world and into the meta worlds that exist. And I am grateful for each of my many encounters. Thanks, everyone.